Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this SME Leadership Academy session on promoting your business online. My name is Tudor Marian, and I'm a senior account manager at Google, working with travel clients across Singapore and the wider APAC region. The SME Leadership Academy series will equip you with digital solutions to help you navigate this unprecedented time for your business and your customers. While this session in particular focuses on promoting your business online, you can also register for our monthly live webinars and view our other video on-demand sessions, such as getting your business online, for more tips and resources. In the second half of this session, my colleague Bea will share tips with you on getting direct bookings from Google for hotels. It's a very interesting session, and I highly recommend you watch it closely. Lastly, before we begin, I wanted to remind you that we have a feedback form, which you should see on the right side of this video. And to make sure we are as helpful as possible, we'd love to hear your feedback. So at the end of the session, don't forget to leave your feedback. And that way we'll help improve our future sessions and become even more helpful for you. So without further ado, let's move on and see what we'll be discussing today. To promote your business online, we can split this endeavor into two main topics. First, you need to be discoverable, meaning you need to help people who are looking for your brand or the products and services that you're offering find you easily. And we have a few subtopics in this area. We're going to have a quick look at organic search results and to understand what's the difference between organic and paid solutions and how can you optimize your website for good results with organic listings. Then we'll have a look at search paid solutions and a subtype of search campaign, which is called dynamic search ads. And I have to say, this is one of my favorite Google products ever. In the second topic that we'll cover in my session, we'll look at how we can acquire new customers through smart display campaigns. It's another very interesting and easy to use solution that should help you reach more customers in a very efficient way using Google's latest automation, artificial intelligence, and all those good products. So let's dive straight to it. How can Google help drive online sales? When you think about the customer journey, you should remember again that we are talking about main two topics, which are be discoverable and acquire new customers. And if we dive a bit deeper, be discoverable can be split into a few parts, meaning search with its organic and also paid components, and as I mentioned earlier, a subtype of search campaign called dynamic search ads. The second side of this story is focusing on acquiring new customers through smart display. So the main difference between search and display is that on search, people are expressing their desire for a particular brand, product, or service by actively researching it. Whereas on display, they might be looking for information without really expressing a explicit desire for that product or service. But leveraging those two components together, search and display, can really help you complete the circle and drive online bookings in a very smart and efficient way. So let's focus on the first topic, be discoverable. And as I said earlier, we'll have a quick look at organic search results. When a person enters a search query, this is what they usually see. It's a page with the results. Usually in the first part of the results, you'll have some paid search results. These are very clearly marked with an ad box, so you know those are paid results. And then lower on the screen, you should see the organic search results. For now, we will focus on this second part. This is obviously free, and it's a very good idea to optimize your website so that you rank as high as possible and be present with the results for the most relevant searches related to your business. Here are some basic tips that are very helpful, and this should be the foundation of a good website, a website that's optimized for appearing really well in organic search results. The first and most important tip is make sure that your content is relevant and original. Have clear descriptions in your page, explain what you're offering, be very clear with your messaging, and try to have unique texts and images on each page of your website. Avoid copying the same content on multiple pages, and try to think of your website through the lens of your customer. What do they need to see there? What is relevant and useful information? And try to make it as easily accessible as possible. Make sure that your website is organized in a very logical fashion. So the structure of the website should be easily understandable. It should follow a logic. People should navigate easily without, even if they've arrived on your website for the first time, it should be very easy for them to understand what each category means and how they can reach the page that has the information they're looking for. Part of this, and this tip is very important for making sure that your website ranks really well in the organic search results, is to have good page titles and descriptions. Again, avoid as much as possible having duplicated content. Try and make sure that each page has its own title that clearly describes what the page information contains. Make it relevant, and again, think of it: what would a person looking for my product or the information on my page would like to see as a first result? So if you're selling, I don't know, boats, make sure that the title of the page with boats is explicitly saying that the information is there. Images are also very important, even for search results. So if you have images on your page, and I'm assuming you do, make sure that they are relevant to the content on the page. As much as possible, try to use unique images next to the content, which again should be unique, as I mentioned earlier, and that way you'll be a step closer to making sure that your website is really well optimized. Another very, very important tip is to make sure that your website loads as fast as possible. Quick load times is something that we all want. When we navigate a website that loads slowly, we find it very frustrating, and many people don't have the patience to wait for a website to load if that takes a long time. So make sure your website is as optimized as possible, and try to ensure that it loads very, very fast. Obviously, a lot of people are using internet through their mobile device. And that trend is accelerating fast. Many people are accessing the internet for the first time through the online device. So think mobile first. Optimize your website for mobile. Even if you're sitting at the desk and you're very happy with how your website looks and feels, try to see if it's a good experience on the mobile device as well. If it's not, then you have some work to do. And this is very important, especially nowadays when most people actually use internet from their mobile device, sometimes on the go. It's important that it works well, and it's a very easy to use website. Next, I wanted to share a few tools that are very important, and I think should be the first step and the foundation for your strong online presence, particularly when talking about organic search results. The first tool I wanted to share is Test My Site. You have a link on the bottom, but don't worry if you don't get the chance to write it down. We'll have a list of all the links and tools that I'll share throughout this presentation towards the end of my session. Test My Website is a tool that will tell you a lot about how Google sees your website from a perspective of the site speed. It will give you some information about what are the main areas that could use some improvement, and where you can start optimizing your website. And this is a great place to start when trying to analyze what your current status is. And then it's very nice to check in maybe a couple of months after you started optimizing, and see what progress you've made and what areas are still in need of some attention. The second tool, which is also very useful and important, is the Search Console. This is a tool that allows you to basically tell Google what pages to remember, what pages to crawl and index for its organic listings. And also, if you have pages that you think are not relevant and shouldn't be part of the search results, this is the place where you can decide to exclude them from the listings. It's a great resource, and I highly encourage you to test it and use it. Lastly, but very importantly, Google Analytics. Having a way to accurately measure what your audience is doing on your website, how they are behaving, what pages they see the most, how they enter your website, and just as importantly, what pages they drop off when they don't complete the purchase, where they don't make the booking, where they don't finalize the action that you're hoping for. Google Analytics is a great tool for that. You'll be able to see how much time they're spending on the website, how much time each page takes to load, where they go after they leave a certain page, and you'll be able to understand a bit more about how the audience interacts with your website, and that can be a great source of information when deciding what to do next and how to optimize your website even further. Then when it comes to picking your keywords, which means how do you want your potential audience to find your pages, your website? You should think of it from the perspective of the purchase funnel. So we have our main stages: awareness, consideration, purchase, and loyalty. You should try to group your keywords into these main buckets. Obviously, you cannot optimize your homepage for all the keywords that might be relevant to your business. So then you need to choose which keywords are optimizing which page. And one example in this flow would be, for instance, to optimize your homepage for the keywords that inspire awareness. So the keywords related to awareness, like category, what type of business do you have, what type of industry you're in. These are the keywords that you should link to probably your homepage. And then in the consideration phase, you have people who might be interested in details about the product, about reviews related to your brand or your product, details about pricing, and deal-specific keywords, so offers, discounts, promotions, stuff like that. And here again, you can think of optimizing your homepage, but also you have, for instance, for online travel agency or a hotel, you may have the page related to packages or different sections of the menu. And then when it comes to conversion and purchase, people again might be interested in details about the product, reviews related to the product, also pricing. This is very important for them. So here you may want to optimize pages related to, again, using the same example of a hotel website, the pages related to the rooms with photos of the rooms, and even the first steps of the booking engine section. These pages could be very well optimized for keywords related to conversion and purchase. And then you have the retention and loyalty. And this is something we shouldn't forget, because even though the purchase has been made, loyalty means that our customers will come back and they will purchase again. So it's very important to make sure they're happy and they have enough content to remember our brand, to love it, and to come back to us. So some examples of pages that could be optimized for keywords related to loyalty could be pages such as the location of the hotel, if we're using the same example, amenities, the story about the brand, contact sections, and so on. So this is just a very high-level example of how you can think of the different sections of your website and how you may link each section to a different bucket of keywords when optimizing it for appearing in good positions on the search organic listings. Now, moving on to the next chapter of this first topic, which is search paid solutions. And there are many similarities between how you should approach optimizing your website for organic listings and how you should think about your strategy for paid solutions. With search, with paid search, you have the option to decide very precisely what ad you want to show for which search query for each keyword, and where do you want to send that user. You don't have this much flexibility, and it's not as easy to do it as precisely with organic, but you can complement organic with paid search. And again, the basis of paid search is keywords, because it all starts with a user query. So again, put yourself in the shoes of your potential customer and think about what they might be searching that your business can be a solution, an answer to their question. So start your search strategy by thinking of what are the top keywords, the most important keywords related to your brand or the service that you're offering. So we have a few examples here. If you are a restaurant specialized in Italian cuisine, obviously Italian restaurant would be a very relevant and important keyword. If you offer, I don't know, cooking classes in the CBD area, obviously this could be a very relevant and the first keyword you may think of. So start by creating your relevant keyword list, thinking about what products and services you're offering and how people might be looking for those products and services. Then when it comes to actually setting up your first search campaign, things couldn't be easier because it's a very intuitive and easy to follow flow. The first step is to just tell us what your goal is. You're either looking for sales, leads, website traffic, and a few other categories. If you're promoting your business online, if you're selling something online, you're likely going to be interested in sales or leads because you want people to purchase online or to register for your classes or to become your customers. So a lead may also be very valuable. You're probably less interested in website traffic for the sake of it. That's why it's important in this first step of your building your first campaign to select your main goal for your business. Then in the second step, you can decide where you want to advertise because your product may not be relevant for the whole APAC region, for instance. If you're a yoga studio on the East Coast, probably your customers won't be located in the West Coast or in the western part of Singapore. If you offer delivery island-wide, maybe you should select the entire Singapore region. If you can ship overseas, then obviously your geographical area expands accordingly. So think about who is the potential customer, where are they located, and then set your geographic targeting accordingly. Then in the third step, you need to think about your message. So imagine what would a customer like to see when searching for one of your relevant keywords. Going back to what we discussed a few minutes ago, you have your keyword list. Now, someone might be looking for one of those keywords. Try to imagine what would be a good answer to their question. What is a great text ad that will convince them to click and go to your website to find what they're looking for. Highlight what's best about your business, a few short sentences, and you should be done. Also, there are a few elements that can make your campaign stand out. One of them is extensions. So you have a few options: site link extensions, callouts, review extensions, promotion extensions. Maybe not all of them might be applicable to your business, but you should try to add as many of them as you can, as long as they're relevant, because they help make your ads stand out even better, and they will get you more traffic that will hopefully turn into valuable customers and successful purchases. Going back to keywords, what we were discussing a bit earlier, maybe sitting with a pen and paper is not enough. You may need some additional tools to create your keyword list, to understand what people might be looking for when researching things related to your business. We have some tools here, and I think they're very valuable, and I encourage you to try them out. The best one that is also valuable when deciding your keywords for organic listings, by the way, is the keyword planner. And it's very easy because you only need to start with a couple of basic keywords, the main ones that are related to your business. And then Google and the tool will help you get additional ideas from historical searches which are related to the main keywords that you've entered in the field where you see bakery in our example. So once, let's say you have a bakery, you enter a couple of keywords and then you hit get results, and you will get a list of keywords that are relevant to the main category bakery. And you'll also have some estimates about average monthly searches. So you'll be able to see how much demand there is for that keyword, and it's a good indication of what people are looking for. Maybe it can even inspire you to start a new section or a new product related to your industry. So in this example, maybe gluten-free is something that you didn't even realize there is so much demand for. So then you can anticipate it and create an ad specifically for gluten-free products if you're offering something like that. In the third column that you see in this example, you'll have an indication of how much competition there is for that keyword. So you see cupcakes near me is rated as medium competition, whereas cake shop near me has low competition. So if you're selling cakes, then it's a good news. Cake shop near me doesn't have that much competition, which means it might be cheaper or easier for you to get good results and get valuable customers from that keyword. I highly encourage you to play around and try Keyword Planner. It's a very useful tool. Now, going to dynamic search ads, which, as I said earlier, is one of my all-time favorite Google products. And let me tell you how dynamic search ads works. It's essentially, you can think of dynamic search ads campaigns as keyword-less campaigns. So campaigns where you don't need keywords, because Google has a smart way of figuring out if a search is relevant and related to one of the pages on your website. So, Google is scanning your website and you already show up in the organic search results. Now you can create a paid ad that leverages this machine learning and indexing that we already have of your website to make sure that you appear on a top position and link each relevant query to the most relevant page on your website. Ads are created automatically. The headline is automatically generated from content on your website. Also, the final URL or the landing page is added automatically to match whatever search query triggered this ad. All you need to do is basically create a few lines of description for the ad, which in this example is the text in gray, just below the headline. The headline is blue, and as I said, that is generated automatically. The URL is also added automatically. You just need to focus on the description lines. And everything else is happening seamlessly behind the scenes, and it's a super easy way of matching user query to the most relevant page on the website. This product works particularly well if you have a huge inventory. If you have thousands of products, then it's probably quite cumbersome and difficult to create relevant ad groups for each product to match keywords that are related to each product to a relevant ad, and then to send traffic to the most relevant page related to that product. Dynamic Search Ads does this for you, and it's super easy to use. In general, we see advertisers noticing an uplift of 29% in conversions, and conversions or sales happen at a 10% lower cost per acquisition when using DSA. And also, it's worth noting that 86% of DSA traffic is incremental, meaning your products will reach more potential customers. They won't interfere with your regular classic keyword campaigns. It's actually, you can think of it as a safety net to capture whatever is not captured by the classic campaigns. So it's a great type of campaign to use in addition to your classic campaigns, not necessarily to replace them. Moving on to the second topic of my presentation, which is new customer acquisition on the Google Display Network. Obviously, the Google Search Network is still one of the most valuable tools when it comes to finding new customers, because when people go and search for something, they are explicitly showing their interest for a certain brand, product, or service. So it's worth starting there, and it's worth capturing that demand because it's already there. But what happens when you want to acquire new customers? You want to expand beyond that pool of users who already knows about your brand or product. How do you reach them? Well, the best second step is to go and find them on the Google Display Network. And when using Google Display, in addition to search, you will reach a new set of customers, and you can expand your footprint and your market share beyond the existing demand that's already there. And one of the great tools for doing this without too much effort, and again, leveraging some of the latest artificial intelligence, machine learning, and smart algorithms that Google has to offer, is smart display campaigns. Because you can allocate a specific portion of the budget, you can just decide on a few elements, a few goals for the campaign, and everything else will happen behind the scenes, and you'll hopefully get very relevant traffic that will convert and become loyal customers. So in a few words, smart display campaigns are combining a few very important elements and technologies that Google has to offer. Smart bidding, which is using the algorithms to decide which auctions Google should aim for, how much to bid in each auction in order to increase your chance of getting a valuable conversion. Automatic targeting, because again, using machine learning and a lot of research and development, you can leverage this to make sure that your ads are only shown to the most likely audience that has a chance of converting. Google does this for you. You don't need to decide, which websites your ads should appear, what kind of, content the website should have where your banner appears, and how much to bid. Again, going back to smart bidding. And the third component of this is automatic creatives. So the system creates the ad for you because, as I'm sure you know, on the display network, ads can be in all shapes and sizes and formats, and creating a version for each and every situation is a very time-consuming and requires a lot of effort. But there is a solution where Google can create your ads automatically, starting from a few components that you decide, something like logos and brand messaging and a few other details, and everything else happens behind the scene simply, and still allowing you full control over how your creatives look. So slightly recapping what smart display campaigns has to offer. You start with some existing assets that are already in your account. So the system has a look at what are your existing targeting and creatives, what landing pages and site content you already have, What are your audience lists? Meaning, other word for it is remarketing list. What kind of users you have on your list, and what are their interests? And then all this is fed into a prediction algorithm that helps precisely target users, usually from the middle to lower funnel, topics and placements, similar audiences, keywords, and remarketing lists to find the right audience with the right ad to achieve your goal. A component of display campaigns is responsive display ads. And again, this is a great example of how with very little effort, just a few logos, descriptions, images, and headlines, there's machine learning and an algorithm that builds very relevant ads in all formats, shapes, or sizes, so that you don't have to create those ads manually. And everything is integrated seamlessly with your campaign. So it's another feature that I encourage you to use because it's very easy and straightforward, and it gives great results in my experience. So moving to the practical side of things, how do you create your first smart display campaign? So it's a very seamless process. You start by opening a new campaign and you select the display tab. Then, similar to what we did with the search campaign, you select the marketing objectives. Do you want sales, leads, or something else? And then you make sure you select Smart Display Campaign. You select your geographic and language targeting, again, thinking about where your potential customers are located and what languages they speak. You decide your daily budget and how much you're hoping to achieve as a cost per acquisition. That's the CPA bid that sometimes we refer to. And then you click Save and Continue. You enter a few assets for your category, a few headlines, descriptions lines, marketing images, and logos, and the landing page. And the system will mix and match them to create ads in all formats and sizes. But one important tip here is to select these assets in such a way that they are interchangeable. Make sure that each headline works with any of the description lines, and the marketing images are a good fit to each of these combinations. This way, you'll make sure that any combination of components creates logical and relevant and a good ad, regardless of the element selected. And then you can review your assets. If you click View Asset Details, you can see how they're performing. You can see if their performance is best, good, or if they actually need some time to mature and optimize, and you can tweak them based on the results that you're seeing. Make sure you review this report and use this information here to tweak your campaign and make it even better. So in just a few minutes, this is how you should think about driving online sales. And these are some of the most important tools that Google has when it comes to reaching customers online easily and in a very efficient way. Just to recap, we've been discussing about search campaigns, both paid and also a strategy for optimizing your website for organic search listings. Don't forget about this amazing subtype of search campaign, which is called dynamic search ads. It's very useful and very easy to set up, and especially if you have a lot of pages or a lot of products on your website, it's a very useful tool. And if you want to go beyond finding customers who already express an interest in your brand or your industry, don't forget smart display campaigns. It's a very easy way to dip your toes into the world of display ads, and also be very strict with who you're targeting and what is the objective of your display campaign. Because smart display campaigns are designed to bring valuable customers that have a very high likelihood of becoming paying customers, not just traffic or generating awareness. Also, here's a list of important resources that you should try and test because they're all very useful. You will probably see links somewhere below the video, and you can access those links there. I'm going to leave this here for a second in case you want to have a look and understand what list of resources I'm talking about. So we've talked about Test My Site. We've talked about the Search Console. Google Analytics is a great tool that shows details about how the traffic is behaving. Google Trends is another tool which helps you spot, what are the keywords and areas that users are interested in and how that interest has evolved over time. There's also YouTube ads that you should check out. Grow with Google is another great resource for very valuable content. And I'm sure you'll see and test the rest. Without further ado, I will hand it over to Bea for her portion of the session. And I want to thank you again for joining this. Don't forget at the end to fill the feedback form and let us know if you found this useful and how we can improve the future sessions. Thank you so much. Bea, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the SME Leadership Academy. My name is Bea Bixa. I'm a business leader at Google, and I work with travel-related businesses across APAC. Today, we are going to talk about getting direct bookings from Google. Let's take a look at our agenda. First, we are going to demystify travel planning, and then we are going to take a look into how hotels can get direct bookings from Google. So if we look back maybe 15 years ago, travel planning was quite different. I remember when I was a child, I visited a travel agency with my parents. We took some brochures home, we looked through them, we chose our destination, our hotel, we went back to the agency, made the booking, and then a few months later, we enjoyed the trip. When coming home, we developed the pictures, looked through the photographs, enjoyed the memory, and that was it. Now, if we look at travel planning today, it's absolutely not a simple process. In this example on my screen, you're looking at one of our users, Dan, who spent more than 75 days researching his trip, having 600 different touch points in his research process. He visited websites detailing top travel destinations. He looked at YouTube videos, what to do in each destination. He looked for flights and hotels to the given destination at the given destination. So it became a long, tedious, time-consuming process. Now, at Google, we always do surveys. So we did a particular survey to find out about travelers' inspiration, travel research process. And we found out that indeed, we are always thinking about travel. Remember when you watched the documentary and after that, you looked up flights or hotels at that place because you liked it a lot? So that's one kind of inspiration. So we asked our travelers what inspired them, and also we asked them how often they looked at travel-related websites before, during, and after booking a trip. What was really interesting to see from this survey was that even after completing a booking, many travelers continued to research and find inspiration. 95% would visit travel-related websites even after completing a booking. 74% would research a trip, and 8% would even cancel and rebook. But of course, we don't act on every inspiration. We also have underlying needs. For example, dog owners will need dog-friendly hotels, while people who are burnt out and stressed will look for quiet places and wellness in a hotel. So the most important takeaway for travel businesses here is that they have to meet customers' underlying needs, which is often most important than the price itself. So let's take a look at how to get direct bookings from Google. So based on how complex travel planning became, Google would like to be the trusted place for our travelers to go for the most useful information to make faster and effortless decisions. So we created 4 travel-related products. First, Google Trips, where users can find their existing and upcoming trips. Second, we offer Google Explore, where users can browse and dream and look for their desired dream destination that they would like to visit. They are offered some possible day tour options. They can see pictures and descriptions of places to see in that destination, etc. Next, of course, most of you may know Google Flights, where you can look for flights to your desired destination, compare prices, and even make a booking. And last but not least, there is Google Hotel Ads, where users can look for hotels and again compare prices in a destination that they're looking for. Now, let's take a deeper look at what Google Hotel Ads actually is. So Hotel Ads is, of course, available on different devices, tablets, desktop, and mobile. Hotel Ads is also available on several platforms. Some of these have reached the 1 billion users, like Google Search and Google Maps. Google Maps is also very important because Google Hotel Ads is the only way to actually advertise and get bookings from Google Maps. And actually, there is an increasing trend for users to search for hotels directly on Google Maps. Now, let's see what Hotel Ads actually is. As you can see on my screen, in this example, I searched for hotels in Singapore on my mobile device. On the left-hand side, I can see a map on top of my screen, so I can position myself in the destination. Then, of course, I can change my travel dates. Underneath, I can already see a list of hotels displaying prices. So at this point, I get an idea how much hotels cost. Now, let's take a look at the right-hand side of my screen now. After clicking on one of the hotels, here I clicked on Intercontinental Singapore, I'm given several options. I can choose to call this hotel, I can look for directions there, I can save this place, or I can go to their website directly. Or, of course, I can book a room. Looking on the bottom of my screen, that's actually Hotel Ads. That's where I can again refine my booking dates, and I'm given several options of advertisers who I can decide to make a booking with. As I previously mentioned, on the top of the right-hand side screenshot, I can also decide to call this hotel on the phone or go to their website and make a booking with them directly. And the information on the top comes from Google My Business. So at this point, let me pause for 1 second. It's an extremely important prerequisite for your hotel to have a Google My Business profile in order to appear on Hotel Ads. So let's go ahead. In this next example, I searched for a specific destination now on my desktop. Again, I typed in Singapore hotels. So this is how Hotel Ads comes up on desktop. On top, there is a unit we call the hotel search. On the left-hand side, list of hotels. On the right-hand side, there is a map. Underneath, you can see the organic and the search ad results as they come up. If I click on View More Hotels, this is where I'm taken. So this is a detailed view where I can choose from lots of filters. I can again set my dates. I can choose the star rating of the hotel. I can choose the occupancy, etc. Now we even have a new feature called the COVID-19 responder rooms. So people who are helping with COVID-19 can look for special rates or special offers by clicking on this filter. So as you can see on the list, there is a list of hotels with prices. Now, if I click on one of these hotels, in this example, I clicked on the very first one, Populous Hotel, I'm taken here. This is what we call the hotel detail page. Most importantly, on the top of the page, this information again comes from Google My Business. It's not advertising, it's the information that you have added into your Google My Business profile. So that's why it's so important to keep the information up to date, to add nice pictures, etc. On the bottom of this page, you can see Hotel Ads. Again, one more chance to refine your travel dates, and then you're given different prices. Here in this example, you're also offered different room types. If you click on Visit Site, then you're taken to the website to make this booking. A very, very important call out here, and I really like this example because this is kind of a best practice for a hotel. In this example, Populous Hotel is showing their own website on Google Hotel Ads. So if you look at the screen, I know this screenshot is a little bit small, but next to Populous Hotel, there is a little tag that says official website. What that means is that by clicking on it, I'm actually taken to Populous Hotel's website and I make a booking directly with them. Now let's take a look at a search for a specific hotel or brand on google.com. In this example, I searched for Capella Singapore. So again, let's look at the left-hand side of my screenshot first. On the top, you can see the usual Google search ads and organic search results. On the right-hand side, on the top of the screen, where you can see pictures, the name of the hotel, the star rating, etc., that is information coming once again from Google My Business. So again, stressing that Google My Business is a very, very important feature that you have to keep up to date in order for our users to see the most relevant information of your hotel. Underneath, on the right-hand side, again, this is Google Hotel Ads. So of course you can click on book a room, or you can click on any of the advertisers on the bottom of the screen to make a booking at this hotel. And then here, of course, in the previous example, you have seen that there is an option for the hotel to be present directly to receive a booking through their website from Google Hotel Ads. And in this current example, you can also see that of course, we offer several options, several advertisers for our users to book with, and it's their choice to decide who they book with. After this, let's take a quick example of a case study that we made. Here is one with Hard Rock Hotel Penang, who has seen a 72% increase in direct bookings. So as you can see on my screen, there was an 86% increase in revenue coming from direct bookings, which is huge. 70% increase in online direct bookings, as we said, and 46% increase in website traffic. All this thanks to Google Hotel Ads. So now you might be thinking, okay, I really like this. I'd love to take part in it. But you might be thinking, how can I participate? So let me take you through the most important steps. Number one, I cannot stress this enough. Please make sure that you have an up-to-date Google My Business profile. Next, to learn more about hotel ads, you can visit ads.google.com/hotels, where you will be given some further information. And number three, if you're interested in participating, you can see the list of our integration partners on the website. I'm showing the link on the screen. Please visit that link. You can screen through these partners. You can look for partners that speak your language, that are based in your location, etc. You can reach out to them and discuss your integration further. So now I would like to summarize the 3 key takeaways that I would like you to remember from today's presentation regarding how hotel ads can support your business. Number 1, you can get direct bookings from Google. Number 2, hotel ads can increase your overall booking volume and it can improve your ROI. And number 3, you can own the relationship with your customers. With that, I would like to thank you very much for attending today's presentation, and I really hope that this content has been useful to you. Thank you.